It's here, version 4.0. It's a coaching system which looks at Western ways of knowing and Indigenous ways of knowing and tries to build a bridge between them. So this is fantastic software. It's a decision tree. It maps your narrative, lets you restory it with my antenarrative transformation bees, going beneath and before, the bets, the becoming, the being, the beyond, all that. And it moves you from individual self-actualization, which is totally selfish, into an understanding of Indigenous ways of knowing. Now, it has to do with metaphysics. Now, that is not difficult to understand. It has to do with physics, right? And meta is different ways of understanding physics. Now, if you ever read Gregory Cajete's book on native science, you see an indigenous perspective. If you read Vine Deloria Jr. book on metaphysics, he says that there's an indigenous metaphysics, there's a Western metaphysics, and they're completely different. But what he does is goes out and finds some Westerners that sort of understand it in ways that are approachable by indigenous scholars, like Linda Tuay Smith, like scholars in Canada, scholars in Australia, New Zealand, around the world. So we are looking at version 4. He starts with a welcome. You can find it at TogetherStorying.com. I say storying because I'm making story a verb. So this is all about helping you with your writing. It takes you through 7 kinds of antenarrative, 7 kinds of Western ways of knowing, 7 kinds of Indigenous ways of knowing. You pick one each of those, one from each of the 7 choices, and that gives you your decision tree for true storytelling. Not true storytelling, but together storytelling is part of what I study in true storytelling. So you choose an IWOK, rationality, land-based, more than human person, cyclical, spiral time, story, ceremony is method, reciprocity, responsibility, and collective flourishing. Then you choose one of the WWOKs, Western ways of knowing, substance, subject-object splits, linear time, universalism, control, prediction, ownership, metaphysics, then the anthropocentrism of the selfish intellect. So, not about building a community, building the self. So we go from there and we do a restoring with your choices. So depending on the choice, 7 times 7 times 7 is what, 343? So you're only going to do one of those paths, so it's 343. Each time you come back, do a different path. And we'll take you on a journey where you characterize yourself at your best. You revise and strategize your story. You figure out how you're going to publicize it, who you're going to tell it to. We call it the news story in the restoring, reauthoring method. And then we have a little ceremony where you breathe in, breathe out to embody that news story. You clap a little bit, right? You have a ceremony. And storytelling has its relationality when you get done. So, what not yet story are you ready to bet on in the future? I've got a little video to show you, and that video should help explain it. It's one of those fun videos where I compose a script, and then they have these characters that or at least one that talks and shows you some fantastic graphics. Bye. TogetherStorying.com.
Have you ever felt like you're just a character in a story somebody else wrote for you? Well, today we're talking about how to take back the pen. We're going to explore how we can actively rewrite the narratives that shape our lives, and we'll do it by drawing on some really powerful ideas, both ancient and new. You know that feeling, right? Being caught in the loop, running the same personal story over and over again. A story that feels old and limiting and just stuck. But here's the thing. What if that story isn't a fixed reality? What if you could actually change it? Well, the good news is you can. There's a real practical process for getting unstuck. And it all starts with this powerful shift in how we think about it. See, it's not about having a fixed story. It's about the action, the verb, storying. It's about taking back the pen and becoming the author of your own life. So, that sounds great, but how do we actually do it? We're going to look at a specific tool designed for this exact purpose, a piece of software called TogetherStorying. This is really the core idea, the big shift. We have to move from having a story, a noun, right? Something that just happens to us, to the act of storying, a verb, an action we consciously get to take. It is a fundamental switch from just passively accepting things to actively creating them. So what exactly is this TogetherStorying thing? Well, it's an online system created by a researcher named David Boje, and it uses a pretty simple framework to guide you from that tangled, stuck narrative to a new, clearer path. And it can do it in about 10 minutes. But it's real power. The magic under the hood is how it does this. It works by bridging completely different ways of understanding the world to unlock new possibilities. To really get how the tool works, we first have to understand its engine. It's built on two totally foundational ways of knowing. You could even call them two deep stories about the nature of reality itself. Think of them like two different operating systems for your life. Okay, let's start with a big one, time. The Western approach often sees time as a straight line, right? A progress narrative with a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. But many indigenous approaches see it as cyclical, more like the seasons, spiraling through generations and ceremonies. It's a completely different rhythm. And what about our relationship to the world around us? The Western view often creates this split. There's me, the subject, and then there's the world of objects out there, separate from me. The indigenous view is totally different. It says being is relation, kinship, connection. That's the primary reality. You literally can't exist separately from all your relationships. This next contrast is huge. The Western viewpoint often sees reality as being made of static things, substances with fixed properties. But the indigenous view asks, what if reality is land-based? What if the place, the land itself, is alive, a living partner that co-creates knowledge and meaning with us? And finally, where do we humans fit in all of this? In an anthropocentric view, humans are at the center of everything, and the non-human world is basically a collection of resources for us to use. In the other view, we are just one part of a world of more than human persons, where rivers, mountains, and animals are all recognized as relatives, each with their own agency and their own story. Okay, so we have these two profoundly different worldviews. How in the world does this software help you build a bridge between them? Well, it uses a beautifully simple structure called the 777, which helps you create your own unique path forward. And get this, by making just 3 simple choices, you unlock one of 343 unique pathways to reauthoring your story. So this is not a one-size-fits-all solution at all. It's a completely personalized journey. Your first choice sets the approach you want to take. It's about the lens you want to look through. For example, do you need to look beneath your current story to find the root patterns? Or maybe you want to make some bets on possible futures that haven't even taken shape yet. You get to choose your starting point. Next, you pick one of those 7 Western ways of knowing, or WWOK, that we just looked at. This is about identifying an element of the worldview that might be part of what's keeping you stuck, like maybe seeing your problem only through the lens of linear time, or feeling a need for total control. And finally, you choose a concept from the Indigenous Ways of Knowing, or IWOK, to bridge with. This is the new ingredient, the fresh perspective you're going to integrate into your story. So, for example, you might bring the idea of relationality to a problem of separation, or you could apply cyclical time to a story that you've been framing as a straight-line failure. So, you've chosen your unique 777 pathway. What happens next? This is where the whole thing moves from just being an abstract idea to becoming a new, lived reality. The process itself unfolds in 4 key stages. First, you get that old, stuck story out, you just articulate it. Then, guided by your chosen pathway, you find these small, actionable wins. The system calls them little wow moments. From there, you start to build your new story around those positive steps. And, this is crucial, the final step is ceremony. This just means using simple physical acts, like breaths or claps, to embody your new narrative, making it real not just in your mind, but in your body, too. And this might be the most important part of all. This process isn't just about individual self-help. By drawing on indigenous concepts like relationality and reciprocity, the ultimate goal actually shifts. It moves beyond just individual success and points toward collective flourishing, crafting a better story not just for ourselves, but for our communities and our world. This quote really just captures the heart of it all. It's not just about telling stories, but storying as a practical, relational, and deeply respectful way to navigate our shared future. It's about finding better ways to go on together. And so this whole process leaves us with one final, powerful question. When you look at all the possibilities that are still in motion, all the narratives that haven't quite hardened into reality yet, what is the not yet story that you are ready to bet on?